Well, hello and welcome to Old People This Week. My name is Jeff, and that man, the original rhinestone cowboy himself, that's Mike. Good morning.
Morning, Jeff. Morning, everyone.
I want to say farewell to Morgan Spurlock.
Yeah.
Morgan Spurlock was a documentarian, a filmmaker, Academy Award nominee, whose movie Super Size Me chronicled his that he ate nothing but McDonald's for 30 days and basically to prove that it wouldn't kill you. And it didn't, but it might have anyways.
Contributed.
That contributed. In one scene, Spurlock showed a bunch of kids a picture of George Washington. And none of them recognized the founding father, but they all instantly knew the mascots for Wendy's and McDonald's. Idiots.
Great.
See, that wouldn't have happened when I was a kid. You knew who George Washington was.
Well, yeah, but you also knew how to write cursive and complete a sentence and everything else that all our electronic devices have basically taken away.
Do they in schools now, do they make them say the Pledge of Allegiance every morning?
Probably not. I'm sure there's somebody objecting to that. Probably on religious grounds or God only knows what.
Well, I could see the kids in a fifth grade class. All right, so everyone stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance, and they all stand up and get up their phones and bring up the Pledge of Allegiance. They go,
Yeah.
want to say fond farewell to Bill Walton. He was the UCLA basketball player and later NBA star who became an announcer. And the only reason I bring this up is I was a big fan of the Bruins when I was growing up, and he was maybe the best college basketball player I ever saw play.
Yeah.
But he was also the wackiest announcer in the history of modern basketball, because he would on the national games he did when he worked for ESPN, he wasn't so out there. But on the games he did for the Pac-12 network, when he was doing any random Pac-12 basketball game, he would go off on tangents that were unbelievable. I mean, he would just start talking about museums or writers that he liked, and his co-announcers would desperately try to get him back on track, and he would call them Philistines. He was a complete character, and now I miss them, but when I used to listen to the games or watch the games rather, they were frustrating because he would forget about the game. But anyway, Bill Walton.
Well, he wore the tie-dyed T-shirts all the time, and he was a Grateful Dead fan, and he was always into the music and the shirts and crazy.
He was a huge Grateful Dead fan. He was a huge. If somebody mentioned John Wooden, he would go out. He would talk forever. He told a story that on the first day of practice every year, Wooden, when he was the legendary coach of UCLA, the first day of practice, Wooden would bring the players together, and he would say, "Okay, the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to tie your shoes." And he would make them take off their shoes, put them on, and John Wooden would stand there and say, "This is how you tie them."
I love it.
It's like he was that focused that began with that level. Anyways.
Yeah.
Adios, Bill Walton. Of course, this is Old People This Week, which is a podcast for sharp, mentally acute people over 60. We're all about the news we want to hear, not anything to do with plaque psoriasis, regardless of whether it's mild or severe, or Alzheimer's. Unless Mike gets it, then we'll talk about it.
What?
So if you subscribe to the I've Fallen Down and Can't Get Up School of Aging, this podcast probably isn't for you. Please subscribe. We passed our 50th subscriber. We bashed through that glass ceiling. If you don't want to subscribe on YouTube, then you can subscribe to us on Spotify. Or now, ladies and gentlemen, drum roll please, we're available on Apple Podcasts, which is great, new. Hopefully that will bring us some new listeners. Check out our Substack at 52tasks.substack.com. Last week we recommended that you go shopping to relieve your stress.
That'll do it.
That meant shopping for normal things, by the way, not shopping for a gun or something.
When my wife goes shopping, it raises my stress level.
Because my wife doesn't have to go shopping anymore. She just gets in front of the computer and here comes Amazon and there goes the money.
They back up a semi in your driveway.
Oh, we have delivery guys coming all day. They're dropping off packages all day long from Amazon. They said they probably should just have a special truck set aside for this address. So it was about shopping last week on the Substack, and this week we're talking about living the life, your life to the fullest, because we don't know how long we have on this earth. So I'm all about, living it properly. For some reason, the country genre comes up a lot on this podcast. Not only because I guess a lot of our viewers are interested in it, but because country people are just that darn interesting and always getting into something. And in this case, it's this guy, Morgan Wallen.
He's the hottest thing in country music. He's the single most popular country entertainer right now. Made a huge hit with his first album, but then got into some serious trouble because he used a racial slur, and the whole industry and the media abandoned him. However, his followers did not. He shot immediately to number one, and he's stayed there ever since. And he's just kind of a phenom, but he apparently has really shitty judgment because he just threw a chair off a bar roof in Nashville, damn near killed somebody.
Let's break this down. First of all, he comes from, I did a little research on this guy. He was on The Voice, and he didn't make it all the way through The Voice. He didn't win it or anything, but he got this following from The Voice.
Yeah.
And he became a country star, and as you said. And then a couple of years ago, in 2021, he is caught on tape using the N-word. That's just some racial slur. He, as you say, was more or less abandoned by the industry, but not by his fans. And he's sort of worked his way back into, into good favor over the past couple of years, and he's been touring, and he's got hit songs all over the place.
Yeah.
But then he goes to a bar in Nashville that's owned by Eric Church, that country star.
Yeah.
And he goes up on the rooftop, and then for whatever reason, probably because he was hammered or whatever, he hurls a couple of chairs off the 6th floor of this bar, and they land onto, I guess, Beale Street there in Nashville. And it's not just he's lucky he didn't land on anyone's head, but it did land within a couple yards of two cops.
Yeah. Oops.
So the cops run into the building, run up there and arrest him. There's 3 pending felony charges based on that of reckless endangerment. And he was supposed to have a trial this month in May, but it's been postponed. And then at the same time, a company approached him they were constructing a bar and they wanted his name on it, basically. Yeah. That seems to be what the celebrities do, especially in the country world. These hospitality companies, they will buy properties, develop properties, make it into an entertainment center or bar or restaurant, whatever, and then they sort of license the name of a star like Miranda Lambert, whoever, and that's how the star makes money after that. They don't necessarily ever go to the bar, but their name is on it. Well, someone approached Morgan Wallen about doing it. They were going to hang a sign off the front of it that would have hung over the sidewalk on Beale Street, and the city council of Nashville, who's used to rubber stamping these things and letting them do whatever they want, they said no because of his reputation. He couldn't hang the sign. It delayed the opening, which was supposed to be the other day on Memorial Day, and now he's he apologized again, as he's done every time he gets in trouble, and says he'll become a better person, and I don't know if he will.
No, but there'll be a line out the door of that place, and he'll continue to be the hottest thing going. The other hot star in country music now is this gal, Lainey Wilson, who's just taken the industry by storm. And she just opened, or the hospitality company just opened her bar as well. So, yeah, it's Blake Shelton has one, Miranda Lambert has one. So it seems like hit a certain peak in popularity among all the other perks they get, or a bar with their name on the front.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's actually a great business plan. It's a win-win on both sides. For the developers, the hospitality companies, they get the star's name attached, and for the star, they get their name is out there, and they look cool because they have a restaurant bar named after them.
Yeah.
But, Eric Church has got to be going. I'm not going to let Morgan Wallen up in my bar anymore. Not if he's going to be tossing chairs over the side.
Yeah, and it's funny, they tour together.
Oh yeah,
they have very, very successful stadium show they do together, and so I'm sure there was probably a frank discussion in the back of the tour bus about that behavior.
Is Eric Church the guy who at the Stagecoach he played with that choir?
Yeah, yeah,
and it didn't
totally
go over well.
No, God, no. People were leaving in droves, and it was a real puzzlement still. And no one's really adequately explained it, including him. Complete departure from how he normally performs, because he's a rocker. He's a get out there, jump around, wave his guitar, and he's a hell of an entertainer. He's really, really good. So that very subdued, quasi-religious, take you to church performance was a total puzzlement to everyone.
Huh. Well, he's only the first miscreant celebrity I was going to talk about today. The second is Alex Baldwin, who was he probably rused the day he signed the contract to do that movie Rust, because it's just become a gigantic albatross around his neck. So if you don't remember the story, is he's starring in a movie Rust. They're down in New Mexico on location, and the armorer, meaning the person who's in charge of the supposedly phony guns and bullets that are used on a set, hands him a gun for a scene, and he points it towards the camera, and it goes off, and guess what? The cinematographer is killed, and the bullet goes through her and wounds the director.
Yeah.
And since then, it's been, this is like 3 years ago, and it's still
3 years.
Yeah, she just went to jail. Her name was Hannah Gutierrez Reed, and she, you knew her dad or something, right?
Yeah, her dad was Thel Reed, who was the world's quick draw champion and a legend in Hollywood, because he was the gun coach for almost every Western made, and actors who needed to learn how to handle guns. Thel Reed was the go-to guy.
Well, Thel should have trained his daughter a little better, because somehow a live round made it not only onto the movie set, but actually into the gun. Baldwin and his attorneys are trying to get this thing thrown out, because he says from the beginning, I'm a dumb actor, basically. Why am I being charged with manslaughter? When someone puts a gun in my hand and it's supposed to be clean, how am I supposed to know? Well, they're saying he should have known, he should have checked or something, but they did not dismiss the case against him, so he looks like he's going to have to go to trial. So I was reading about it. He said that the cinematographer who was passed away, got shot, her name was Halia Hutchins, and she had approached Baldwin, and he's sitting there in a chair in this church, which was the set that day. And she approached him and she discussed with him. She goes, I'm going to do a close-up of the gun's muzzle. And she told Baldwin to slowly pull the Colt 45 from the holster and point it at the camera. So he did so, and the gun went off, and it killed her. But he's maintained since the beginning that it just went off.
He claimed he didn't pull the trigger, which is total horse manure.
it's horse manure, and also I think it's a bad. He should have owned it at the beginning. Just said, "I turn, I'm just a dumb actor. Somebody hands me a gun and then tells me to look at, point it towards the camera and pull the trigger. I did it." Instead, he's tried to come off like, "Oh, I know, it just went off." Well, guns don't just go off. You have to pull the trigger.
Especially on a revolver.
Yeah, and facing manslaughter charges for whatever. He's in some deep trouble, and evidently he and his attorneys just are furious, and now they're saying, "Oh, we'll prove ourselves in court that we didn't do anything wrong," and he probably honestly didn't do anything wrong. Again, I've been on movie sets, and actors are nothing more than they're puppets in a way. They're just going to do what you tell them to do, and that's what he did. All right, the third celebrity troublemaker is Scottie Scheffler, and he is the huge PGA star.
Yeah, world's #1 golfer.
Right, #1
Best
golfer in the
golfer
world. He was competing in the PGA Championship, and he had an early tee time, and he's driving over to the golf course, and there had been a incident near the golf course on the road in which he needed to get down in order to get to the course, and in which some employee of the golf course or of the PGA had gotten hit by a car.
Yeah.
So the police had stopped everything. Well, Mr. Scheffler decides that he's not going to follow the rules and just wait there because he has a tee time coming up. So he tries to make his way through, and he's arguing with a cop. And then evidently, according to the police, one of the officers told him to get out and put his hand on the door, on the handle, the door handle, and Scheffler took off and dragged this cop of some feet, and it hurt the cop, and they arrested him. He went to jail that morning, posted bail or whatever, got out and made his tee time. But now they find out that there was no body camera footage. They have to turn on their body cams. He didn't turn it on for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Scheffler claims it was a misunderstanding during a chaotic situation following this fatal accident, and now they're still charging him with the crime even though there's no footage, and a lot of people are saying that they're just making this whole thing up.
Well, there's some footage that has surfaced in the meantime that shows Scheffler in the vehicle approaching the point where the officer came over and knocked on his window and told him to stop, which he did. No evidence of the officer grabbing the door handle or being dragged. It did not happen. And the officer in the meantime has already been disciplined by his department for failing to activate his body camera. But now the whole story is in jeopardy, and it's going to be highly unlikely, I think, based on that video that surfaced. I think it'll be I would be surprised if the charges weren't dismissed.
Yeah. No, if it was you or I, though, by the way, we'd be sitting in jail right now.
Oh, yeah, no, we'd be doing push-ups in the exercise yard on our one hour release from our cell.
You sent me an article about Red Lobster failing.
Yeah, you sell so much product, you go out of business.
Well, so when you sent it to me, I thought, what the hell? They're on the verge of bankruptcy. Why? They said the shrimp did it. Locations of Red Lobster all over the country are shuttering their doors because...
Well, they have that all-you-can-eat shrimp promotion.
That was it. They claimed that the money that the chain lost on its endless shrimp deal, where diners unexpectedly gobbled up enough to put the company millions of dollars in the hole. If you are the Red Lobster executives, they should never have underestimated how much shrimp or free food of anything that Americans can eat.
Yeah.
I watched these where these professional chefs go to a struggling, failing restaurant and they help them.
Yeah.
There's this one with this big giant guy. He does it. I can't remember. I don't know his name. but he's a professional chef, and he goes to restaurants across the country that are doing miserably, and he spends like 48 hours there, and they redo the inside of it, and he teaches. But one of the things he always teaches them, the owners, is the formula for how to price out your entrees.
Yeah, yeah. It was a major underestimation, as you said, about how much shrimp. Because at some point they knew they had a break-even number.
You can just see some guy in the Red Lobster just pounding it,
Putting it in his pockets,
yeah, bringing it home, pockets,
scraping it
cheese
into a
everywhere.
bag. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Uh,
Anyway, hopefully they'll survive, because I like Red Lobsters. I used to go to one in New York, and it was fun.
yeah, they're decent.
Now, we've talked many times on this podcast about the scams that people our age get caught up in. And another thing we've talked about quite a bit in terms of scams is the problem with the squatters.
Yeah.
Well, this one came up over the past weekend. A woman in Los Angeles, she'd saved up money to buy a home. And by the way, it wasn't cheap. It was a $1.675 million home. But it actually was more than one home. There was two homes on the property, like a front house and then like an ADU behind it.
I was going to say in LA, 1.6, that's a teardown.
Yeah. But so she, scraped all this together, but she didn't move into it because she didn't want to break the lease on the place that she was living. So she decided to rent it to someone until she could move in. So she had a couple of guys move in there who were like filmmakers or this or that, and after 3 months, they were struggling, and she was nice enough to let them break their lease. And then she found this other person, and he rented it. He moves in, and he immediately leaves and goes to live where he lives, which is in England, and he turns the place into an Airbnb.
Oh, brilliant.
So he's turning this...
Without her knowledge, right?
Yeah, without her knowledge.
Oh, wow.
So, according to the LA Times, he then illegally sublet it on Airbnb while living on another continent. The Airbnb listings generated $215,950, or an average of $13,500 per month.
Good Lord.
Well, Nikita Saram, who is her name, she finds out about it, or figures it out actually, and by seeing the rental on all these sites, not just on Airbnb but other sites, and now it has been spent the last year, and she can't evict the dude, and he's not even there to evict. Right? This guy rents it, and then he turns it into an Airbnb, and he's making tons of dough on it, and she can't get him out of there. She doesn't want it rented as an Airbnb, or if she did, she would rent it as an Airbnb. But she can't get rid of him. She can't get it. She can't get it out of. She's tried working with Airbnb to get the listings down. They moved the listings to another company, and called Monthlies or something, and where it's now relisted. And she started showing up at the place to confront the people that were renting it to say, "You can't stay here. This is an illegal Airbnb." And she felt bad for those people. And now she's had to work her way through the court system to try to evict this guy. And it's just a nightmare.
Well, I wonder what would happen if she just moved into it. If she just moved into her own home. She owns the title to it.
Yeah. All right. Now, remember that story that we did a couple months ago about the guy who basically, he figured out how to get rid of the squatters that were in his mother's home, or a place that she owned. Leased him that property. Then he went over there and moved in with the squatter until and can basically cause so much trouble himself there that the squatter, this woman who, she finally just gave up and left.
Yeah.
It's a problem. I know what I would do. I would change the locks and I would wait in the bushes or whatever until they left, and I would change all the locks, and if that gets some trouble with the law over it, I'd take that trouble rather than have somebody in there trashing the place.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see you sitting on the doorstep with a baseball bat, waiting for somebody.
No, when I'm too chicken to be openly sit there with a baseball bat, I might have the bat, but I'd be hiding in the bushes. Well, anyway, I hope she gets her house back.
Yeah, that sucks.
It does suck. The other story I wanted to talk to you about was, I think you sent this this story to me about this 81-year-old guy who was a serial slingshot shooter.
You can't make this up.
No. First of all, he's 81 years old.
Yeah.
And he's been evidently been shooting this slingshot at people for 10 years. And nobody knew who it was, but people knew because their windows would be knocked out or, or whatever. Dogs were probably maimed or whatever from him shooting these things, but they never could catch the guy. They knew there was in the neighborhood somewhere somebody's, that loose with a slingshot, and he was shooting these little ball bearings, out.
Yeah.
So I have my own slingshot story. Behind
I'm on the edge of my I'm on the edge of my chair.
behind our house, we had 2 avocado trees, which were valuable, by the way, because, as you know, avocados in the grocery store are
Oh, hell yes.
expensive.
$2 or $3 a piece now.
Yeah. We had all that we wanted. And we had the 2 types. We had the one type that's the type you see in the grocery store, and we had this other type that grew them as big as bowling balls. I'm not exaggerating. Gigantic, round. They didn't taste quite as good as the smaller ones, but they were incredible. But in the avocado trees drew these thieving squirrels who would sneak around and try to steal my avocados. So at first I thought maybe I would get a gun and just shoot it off and scare them. And then I thought, no, I'm not going to do that.
No.
And then I got on Amazon and I bought a slingshot. And this is it right here.
No. Say it's not true.
Bought it on Amazon for like $10. And you could get, you could shoot rocks in there, ball bearings, or anything that would fit in there. And I'm going to go outside and I'm going to hide and I'm going to wait till the squirrels show up to try to steal one of my avocados. And I'm going to shoot them with this thing. Well, I wait. And of course, a squirrel shows up there and I get a little rock. And I pull this thing back and I'm aiming it at this thieving squirrel. I fired it. Well, it misses the squirrel, of course. Goes through the tree like at about 1,000 miles an hour. And about a mile away, I hear a crash of a glass breaking somewhere.
Oh, no.
So that was the end of that was my one and only time I used the
dreaded slingshot.
Yeah. So then I had it, but I'm telling you, these squirrels were driving me crazy. And so the next thing I did was I would hide out there with the hose, and the hose turned on and ready to go. And then as soon as the squirrel would get out on the branch, start approaching one of the avocados, I would spray that water on them. And that would get them. That would hit them, and they'd go like this. They go, ah! They'd get really mad. They'd make a noise and then they would go scurry off, and they wouldn't, they would wait. They were not stupid squirrels. They would wait there until they could come back, and then you could hear them up there going, they're all pissed off. Anyways. So this 81-year-old dude is out there for 10 years getting away with shooting slingshots with little ball bearings. He's 81 years old. His name is Prince Raymond King of Azusa, California. The Azusa Police Department launched an investigation after learning of the quality of life issues, that was in quotes, affecting residents of the 900 block of North Enid Avenue. And during the course of 9 to 10 years, dozens of citizens were being victimized.
Yeah, he was like shooting at car doors, denting cars, breaking windows, house windows, car windows. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah. He never hit anybody, which he was lucky because otherwise he'd be. So they finally had a search warrant, and once they figured out who they thought it was, searched the house of the Mr. King, and they found ball bearings in a slingshot.
Yeah.
One
Oops.
my.
I'll do it.
The last part of this killed me. So he's 81 years old. They arrest him. They put him. Now he's couldn't raise bail. He's in the men's jail in downtown LA.
Oh, jeez.
Let me tell you something. The single worst jail probably in the United States. I know it's the largest jail. Is that downtown LA jail? It is.
Yeah.
He's not going to see his 82nd birthday.
No. He's asked for a transfer to Rikers Island.
Yeah, he's in there. He's probably in a cell with a guy who's like a triple murderer, and with him and his little slingshot crime.
Yeah. What are you in for, Bob? Well, I shot a car door.
What are you in for? Oh, I killed my mother.
Yeah. Yeah.
I cut her head off.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the news for this week. As I said, we have our please subscribe, please, and that can be on YouTube here or on Spotify or on Apple, and you can check us out on our Substack. It's 52tasks.substack.com. And congratulations to us because now we've passed that 50 subscriber mark, which was Mike and I are so thrilled about.
Great.
And as I said, Mike is going to go over to the home of the person who was our 50th and cook her up some gopher.
Squirrel. I'm going to cook her up some avocado-fed squirrel that you knocked off your tree.
What killed me is this little slingshot here. The power that rock went when I shot it, it was unbelievable. It was like a rocket, like a gunshot. It went. You just heard it. I go right through the trees. So that's it. The Rhinestone Cowboy and I are riding off into the sunset. We'll see you next Thursday. Like a rhinestone cowboy.
Don't sing. Please don't sing. Remember what I said about your voice.
Riding on a horse in a star-spangled rodeo.
Saucer and blow.
Yeah, that's that I don't like when you bring that up because it takes me 15 minutes to try to explain it to somebody what you're talking about.
You didn't even think it was a thing.
Have a good week, Mike, and see you at happy hour. Talk to you soon.
You got it. Thanks. Bye, everyone.
All right, that was fun.
Yeah, that worked.
Like a rhinestone cowboy.